Going into the policy community of DC, although we're pretty close, it is a pretty intimidating environment. And there's not a class out there that says, how do you get started in politics? There's no such instructions in school or college or grad school. And so we saw this as a great opportunity to share with you our experience about how we got into our field, and also an opportunity to share with you practical suggestions, things that you could do now. At the far left here is Sam Yoon. He's the Executive Director of the National Alliance for Community Economic Development Association. He recently served on the Boston City Council for 4 years as an at-large member, focusing on housing, youth development, and open government. He was also the mayoral candidate for the city of Boston in 2009. We have Esther Lee, who serves in the current administration as the Director of the Office of the Innovation and Entrepreneurship at the U.S. Department of Commerce. And finally, Stephen Suh is a Senior Program Examiner at the White House Office of Management and Budget, or better known as OMB. In his current role, he oversees Homeland Security programs and policies and prepares the President's budget.
Second generation of the Korean community is now old enough to have children of our own, as I think all of us on this panel do. And so we thought it was a great idea when we talked with Steve Choi, the president of the Korean Association, and to work with NetCal, as you mentioned, to talk about some of the things that we do, so that a lot of our younger people can think about different kind of career tracks that you may not have even thought of before. And we feel like it is our responsibility to have a relationship with you and show you that there are different ways to have a meaningful role in our society. And also for you to think of yourselves as future leaders. Because each of the things that we do here is really a leadership role for our country. Far beyond the Korean community, but we're very proud to be Koreans serving our country. Have the education and the energy and the willingness to serve. I think a lot of us learn from our parents. I think all of us can talk about that. So we should be involved in the next chapter of American history. Because if we're not, then the rest of the country will determine our future, will determine the future of our children, and we don't want that. But I also think it's
a topic I'm passionate about, because one, we need more startups in this country to create jobs, but also because this will help immigrants like many of our parents come and stay in this country and create jobs in this country and raise our standard of living. So that's just one example of how a policy that we're considering could have an impact for our community.
Well, the founding fathers thought the federal government needed a kind of a lasting core of professionals who were kind of dedicated to the missions of delivering services, providing for the national defense. The idea is appointees come and go, but you need to have a career class of experts who stay, kind of have the institutional knowledge. So I'm what's called a career servant. There's about 1.9 million jobs in the United States that are federal government jobs in the career service. About 85% of them are here in the DC area.
For a young professional and thinking about working for the government sector, where would I start looking? I mean, if I was let's say, a business person and I'm interested in working for the government.
All right, maybe for those of you taking notes, if you want to look for a government job, USA Jobs is the first and main place to look. What the federal government has tried to do is streamline and make it easier to apply for a government job. So usajobs.com.
The most common is people, either young folks who take 2 years to volunteer on the campaign, go knock on doors, go state to state, do whatever is needed. They just show up at the campaign office, they put them to work, and you volunteer, and you give a lot of your time, and when you win, you get rewarded with a job. And maybe not all, but many, they do try to get as many of those volunteers jobs in the administration.
It's so personal. That's what's really fun about working on a campaign for someone who is at the state level. I mean, I think it would be great to work for a Senate campaign or for a congressman's campaign, but it's so personal when you're working for someone who everyone here knows someone who knows someone, that when you're a politician, this is something you do every day. This is probably, they had probably 5 or 10 meetings just like that every day and said, sure, we can help you do this. We can sponsor a bill. That's exactly what Mark Keem is doing every day when he's in Richmond. People come to him with a need. He says, I have the power. If that's a good cause, I'll do it. But that meant so much to us. So for 3 years, we went back to the community and we said, if we can get unified, and if we can come to the politicians with a unified proposal of what we want to build, not yet in college, or is going into college, or even coming out of college, the best way to learn about yourself is to put yourself in situations that you're unfamiliar